joined here today with Aleksander Leonard Larsen. He's the co-founder and COO of Axie Infinity, and Sky Mavis, who are the creators of Axie Infinity. First, Alex, I want to congratulate you. Axie is just on this unbelievable run right now. For the month of July, the game generated $196 million in revenues. That is up from just $100,000 in revenues for the month of January this year. You can do the math on the percentage there, but it is insane. Daily active users are nearing 1 million. Axie is comfortably the most successful NFT game, and Ronin is the most active ETH sidechain, Ronin being Axie's ETH sidechain, for NFTs. I think a lot of people knew that Axie had room to grow, that play to earn was real. But this is explosive expansion. I don't think anybody could have predicted this. What do you think the primary cause is? Is there one, like some reason that you're particularly proud of? How did this come to happen in such a short time frame?
Hi, Andrew, and thanks for having me here at SmartCon. So, yeah, everything you said there is correct. It's been a pretty wild ride the past couple of months, but you know, from our point of view, it's just getting started. I mean, the game that people are playing right now, we originally released it early in 2020, and there was just a significant amount of pent-up demand because the current battle game is actually also dependent on the breeding game, which then was dependent on Ethereum. So there was all this pent-up demand from people who actually wanted to play the battle game. The current player base that we had, they loved it. But they couldn't breed new Axies without leaking a significant amount of maximum extractable value to the miners on Ethereum. So that's why we created the Ronin sidechain. And once that was released, well, that's really when we started to see this insane run that's happened. So for us, that what that tells us is that there is a significant amount of demand to play these type of NFT or play to earn games, and there is a massive opportunity to introduce crypto to the mainstream by playing games, basically. And that's what we believed in since the beginning, right? That's when we founded our company early 2018. We felt that there's an opportunity here. It's going to take some time, but we didn't really understand just how long it would take to get to this point. So I mean, when we got started, there wasn't even DeFi. There wasn't really much of anything. Everyone had this belief that probably games and DeFi, some of these things are going to find product market fit. But, these latest numbers just tell us that if you can truly find product market fit, it's going to go pretty crazy, pretty fast.
Right. And yeah, I think you can see that, right? But just as impressive as the sort of internal metrics are some softer metrics that might be a little bit tougher to track. The ecosystem around Axie seems to be growing just as much as the game itself. You have full-time streamers now like Bryce Cent, who are making a real name for themselves, almost 50K followers on Twitter. And Axie is nearing top 50 games streamed on Twitch, which I think is just a stunning number. There's real-world interest coming now. And you also have things like Yield Guild Games, another third party which provided scholarships to help users get over the initial cost barrier to playing. How important are these third party contributions, and is there one in particular you want to shout out?
Wow. Yeah, I'll try to not shout out a specific content creator because it makes all of the other ones that we have a little bit jealous. But there are too many to say specifically. Actually, I love to see how many amazing artists we have, for example, who are making amazing art pieces. They make memes. And that's the one of the things that helps spread Axie Infinity outwards. It's not only the game. Like Axie Infinity is a combination of both game and community and economy. So the community, they touch on all of these things, like artists, that's more on the community side specifically. And then you have businesses like Yield Guild Games, who are creating their own scholarships and other guilds that are in there. So they've been tremendously important in actually going to market in various jurisdictions because it's quite expensive to get started playing Axie right now. So what these guilds actually do, some of them had many Axies from before it got expensive, and then they're kind of distributing them out to many different accounts. accounts, and then they are onboarding players like that. So it's sort of like a light franchise model, which I don't think anyone could actually foresee, because everyone's like, oh, Axie Infinity is too expensive, we're just not going to start to play at all. But then you see that the community actually finds solution to because it's basically created using our existing account system that enables these scholarships. So we don't only have that, but we also have game developers who want to make Axie Infinity games, and that's one of the opportunities for NFTs. And in general, when I see all of these profile picture, projects that are popping up in the ETH space right now, I'm like, wow, this is perfect for, other games in the future. And that's also, kind of where we started in Axie. We had these NFT game assets that, we had the idea that we wanted to put them in various games, and then eventually just started building. So I think in the next couple of years, it's going to be super exciting. And in Axie, of course, we even have podcasts. I think there are up to 5-6 different Axie podcasts that are specifically tailored to the Axie community. So it's just great to see how fast things are growing there. But everything is coming from this, early traction that we had, that solid foundation. That pretty much the only way to do that is to, keep building through a bear market, because that's when you find the true believers, the evangelists. It's quite similar to what, actually Chainlink did the last bear market.
That's a great comparison. I love that. 6 podcasts as well. That's an insane figure. Let's talk a little bit about the FUD then. I think a lot of Axie's success comes from this really elegantly designed economic flywheel. New users coming in drive demand for the Axies. That then drive demand for Small Love Potion, which you need to breed more Axies, and that leads to yields from the game as players earn by doing in-game activities, which then, of course, brings new users in. However, it seems like that flywheel stalls out if there isn't this constant explosive user growth. I'm wondering how the game maintains momentum when user numbers begin to contract, and how can the economy continue to flourish in more adverse circumstances?
Yeah, it's a very common question, and I totally understand why people have some concerns around this, right? For us, it's totally fine to be growth focused for now. So we see Axie Infinity as more than a game. It's actually a network where the more players that we have in the network, the more connections they are making with each other, and actually the more value that's being generated inside the network. So that's why we can afford to give these tokens out for a period of time, while Axie Infinity is growing. But at the same time, what happens if we have too many Axies that exist in the ecosystem? Well, we need to find ways that we can basically give them more utility. So everything is tied to the utility of the Axies. The more games you have created in your ecosystem, the more players will want to hold onto the Axies or potentially use them. And those use cases, well, some of them might be even releasing Axies into the wild so that you actually reduce the supply. So that's something that we have, spent a lot of time thinking about, and it's not something that we are too concerned about right now, because I would say maybe only 15% when it comes to the development of Axie Infinity and how this game can evolve over time. Of course, this is something that, let's say that we would prefer if there wasn't such insane rallies in prices, just because it's always better, kind of in our opinion, that it goes just slightly up and up and up and up, rather than this very bubbly and then it crashes a little bit. So we're trying to keep more of to trail the economy a little bit and then react if we see that things are getting out of hand. So sort of like the invisible hand, just not quite the same way.
Can you that's a really interesting point, and I'm curious how you approach something like that. Is this simply by introducing new features that also serve as a kind of economic policy making? The new mini games themselves can have an economic impact, right? So when you talk about potentially curbing growth, does that come from these hypothetical Axie burn mechanisms? Can you give us a little insight, maybe an example of what an economic policy enacted in Axie might look like?
Yeah, a very easy one would be when we are looking at, the SLP issuance that a player can earn every day, right? There is a set amount of SLP that they can make, but if we want to reduce the pressure, the sell pressure on SLP, we can basically reduce the amount of SLP that they can earn per day. And then at the same time, we can also increase the amount of SLP that's required to breed. Of course, these are things that we need to be very careful with. If not, people lose faith in the currency as a whole. So yeah, that's a very easy way for us to change things.
Really interesting. changing topics a little bit here, I want to talk about the metaverse a touch more broadly. Something that's been nagging me recently is that a lot of the new projects, perhaps Axie competitors that are starting to come out, they always talk about building a metaverse, which in its language seems to me to be fundamentally antithetical to the notion of the metaverse, which is supposed to be this persistent universe that's fully interoperable across multiple game worlds and can overcome licensing and IP barriers. You touched on this a little bit, talking about folding in profile pick projects, bringing in third-party developers. I'm curious how Axie is approaching bringing in outside content and whether or not, Lunasia's borders will remain closed.
Yeah, another good question. I think we have to go back a little bit to answer this question. When we started Axie, we were very collaborative. I mean, Axie NFTs, they were initially purely on Ethereum, so we could collaborate very easily with the other project. And we even did that. But it turned out that it takes a lot of development time, and it's actually sort of a distraction until you have found that user base that it actually makes sense to collaborate with existing projects. So we actually took a step back and decided that we're just going to focus on our core, belief and what we think we need to do, and that is to make a good game and a good project so that we can actually get many users in that aren't already inside crypto. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're making a fun game, and then these players, they come in to play Axie Infinity, and then eventually we can take them on a journey where they can play many, many different games, and then eventually take part in a broader Axie Infinity game universe where you can do many different things. So that's how we view the world at first, and then eventually, who knows if we can open that up to other IPs in the future, or even, it's natural that people will be able to use their Axies in other games as well. I mean, they are NFTs, they should be open. So that's definitely coming. But for now, we're in this kind of hybrid state where we actually need to take care of the current user base that we have and just be laser focused on that, so we don't spend precious developer resources on other things. And I think this metaverse meme where everyone is bringing it in, well, I actually think it's going to come from the community first. And it makes perfect sense to me that it would be a group of crypto whales who have a lot of money, who've made money in Ether or maybe in some other project before, and they've learned some things. And then they come at it from a more like altruistic perspective, where you actually want to provide a service for the entire ecosystem. The real challenge there is, how do you actually balance out the value of each profile picture project or Axie or Punk, or, how strong should they be inside that meta universe? And what is the gamified way to participate in the meta universe? Because people don't only want to, like, being social is a part of it, but people also want to do something. Like, you can't just be social. You have to I play a game, or, there has to be some kind of mission. So I think we're very like a few years out of that actually happening.
But it sounds like that's certainly on the roadmap. And, if an outside developer was willing to do the legwork, that's something that Axie would be open to.
Yeah, so we want to open up Axie Infinity, the game universe, so that people can make their own Axie Infinity games and put that on top of Axie Infinity Land. That's the first step. In the future, using Axie assets for other type of games, that could happen as well. It's just not something that we see as very feasible in the very short term, because there's so much on the infrastructure side that still needs to be built out. And all of these challenges in terms of what is composability, and these are challenges in DeFi, but in NFT world, it's just people are just starting to realize that, wow, this is actually going to be a major challenge.
Yeah, I think it's easy to look to the future and imagine what you want, but not kind of overlook the technical hurdles. Speaking more a little bit about the metaverse, though, I think you now have a big competitor coming onto the scene, to put it lightly. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, CEO over there, announced in a video he sent to employees that the social media giant is pivoting to become a metaverse company within the next 5 years. So far, he's playing nice. He's publicly said that Facebook will work in tandem with other companies and entities to build out the metaverse. But I think many people rightfully fear that they'll become these digital land barons in a walled garden. How does the permissionless metaverse compete and win against the giant like Facebook?
Yeah, I actually retweeted this today by one of the co-founders from Foundation. His name is Kayvon, and he said and I totally agree with it. He said that it's increasingly clear that big tech will attempt to co-opt the term metaverse. So in my opinion, we should fight for the integrity of the word and what defines a metaverse. Like those will be that the digital items and the digital objects belongs to the people, and that they are portable. They can be used across many different games, for example, or many different applications, and that they actually hold some value. Now, I have serious doubts that Facebook or any other, big tech company will want to share all that value, because why would they? They are making money on us, right? They are making money on selling our identity, our data. So, I mean, I'm not so worried that they will succeed, because I hope that people are getting smarter. And that they will be able to see, the true benefits of something like Axie and other decentralized applications where you truly own your game assets. And that's the way it should be. It's just, once the genie is out of the bottle, it's really hard to put it back. So they might try it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I agree, and I hope that's the case. Last quick one, because we're running out of time here. It's been a pleasure talking with you. But a lot of the things that we touched on today would ideally be, these major decisions would ideally be done by a DAO. Deciding on how much SLP emissions there are, choosing partnered projects. How quickly is Axie going to move towards full governance decentralization? And is that another sort of long-term roadmap, or are there clear objectives on the horizon?
Yeah, so we take a very, how could I say it, pragmatic approach to decentralization. I mean, our idea here is we actually need to make sure that there is a stable foundation first, and then eventually we can start to progress into decentralization from there. So how long it's going to take specifically, I mean, I think we could talk even a decade until Axie Infinity is fully decentralized. The reason for that is because making a game is really, really hard, especially when you're building on bleeding edge tech, and when you are trying to put all these pieces together, like not only the economy, the community, everything that's around a game like this, and even working with the larger, the larger game studios in the world, or the larger distribution platforms. So that actually there needs to be a core team in place. It's a little bit different from a DeFi application where you can actually just put a smart contract out there. I mean, we could decentralize the marketplace contract right now, but that wouldn't mean Axie was decentralized. So pragmatic approach first. Let's make something that people love and then care, and then have a clear roadmap that this will be decentralized, and that's going to be happening through a token. I think that's what we're willing to commit to at this point.
Great to hear. Well, Aleksander, thank you for your time. I'm sure you're incredibly busy building comfortably the world's largest and most impressive play-to-earn platform. Really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew, and thanks for letting me come on to SmartCon once again to the Chainlink team, and I can see Sandeep is coming up, so should be very interesting to hear what he has to say as well. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Andrew and Aleksander. Always great to hear from Axie and about their incredible community as well.